troublemakers will follow. Then other troublemakers will see that perhaps this is worth of doing. This is that there is something in it. If we want to avoid this, if we want to avoid repetition of similar crises in any place in the world, we must be consistent here. And also when it comes to any potential destabilization in Indo-Pacific, be it Strait of Taiwan or any other places. We had a very good debate yesterday about this. Europe must be adamant. We have to say very clearly that if anybody breaches international law, there will be strong answer, not just European answer, but also transatlantic answer, because we are here in this together, Europe, United States, other allies that we share the same values with.
Do you have to be a little bit careful that your Indo-Pacific players don't feel like they're getting a lecture, because that's been a complaint in the past when Europeans perhaps try to discuss Ukraine with Asian and African nations?
Oh, very much so, and I think me coming from Poland, from a country that also sometimes is getting lectures, and I understand it very well. Europe is a very diverse continent. We have countries that like to lecture others. We have countries that are getting lectures. So I think we are able to find a good balance. Poland has never been a colonizer country. We are actually being colonized. We've been under foreign rule, under foreign dominance. We understand it very well, what it means not to be able to either be independent or to develop oneself as we wish. So we have this footing, this understanding with countries with similar experience. And our approach is very clear. We don't want to lecture, we don't want to present any perfect solutions. We want to underline that there are basic values based on international law. The Charter, the United Nations is based on principles that everybody should respect. And this is it. If we follow this, if we observe international law, then everybody will live in a safer world.
But if so, this meeting is so important and the region is so important, why are so many EU ministers missing it?
I also regret this, that not every country is present. We should be present on a larger level. More countries should be involved. We should do even more. This is the second EU Indo-Pacific Ministerial Forum. I hope that we will be gradually increasing the presence, the also frequency of such meetings. It should be much more than just a declaration. There should be proper work done, and I think that there is a genuine commitment on many EU countries' side to do it, to improve these relations and to actually invest in stable world, not just in our immediate neighborhood, but also in the Pacific. Thank you.
We have common challenges after the pandemic, disruption in supply chain, and how to have peaceful transition to the new Yeah, he explained the difficulties and the challenges we are facing. And I think the overwhelming institutional function, ministers and president, this conflict should be resolved as soon as possible.
Okay.
And stand close to the grey spot. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Hyun Jani Kim, a Deputy Minister for Climate Change from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea. This is my first time to be in EU and Sweden presidency meeting, but I'm very impressed because there are many non-European country ministers and representatives. Therefore, Sweden is organizing very inclusive discussion about Indo-Pacific strategy. Korea also announced the Indo-Pacific strategy last year. I believe that European Union, Sweden, and Korea, we do share lots of things together, and there are many areas for further cooperation and progress. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question on China, please? Do you have a common interest, and how can you convince China to play a more active role in convincing Russia to withdraw troops from Ukraine?
In our Indo-Pacific strategy, China is also a partner to work together, and we are closely talking with China to play a bigger role in the global community as a responsible member of the United Nations. And we do believe that there are many areas for China to play a constructive role.
Do you believe that China also hears that, and what is the response of China when you say you're trying to convince them? What is?
No, I don't have any idea whether China is here or not, but I was informed yesterday that China is not here. So.
What is the response you receive from Chinese officials when you ask them to engage on the Ukraine issue?
Because I'm not a security expert, I'm not in a position to say about China's role in Ukraine matters. However, Korea strongly believes that China must play a constructive role in global community.
For your Indo-Pacific colleagues, not everybody's on the same page with regard to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Is it a challenge to convince your colleagues to also see things from the Ukrainian point of view?
Korea's Indo-Pacific strategy is based on freedom, trust, and prosperity. So we are promoting rule-based international order. On that principles, we are working together with our partners.
Have you discussed Taiwan today?
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Why should they discuss it? Why should they discuss Taiwan? Why should they discuss Taiwan? I mean, I have no idea. Why should they?
Well, the similarity.
Schrodinger's geopolitical crisis.
Let's ask Islam.
He is inside already. But he offered to stop. He said, I'm taking the time. Yesterday. Maybe because he did first here and then we asked him over there again.
There's so many. And all of them. It's just all you need somebody that can do that. Ask the doctors.
Madame la
Madame
ministre,
la ministre,
vous voulez
une demande? Question?
Complaining about other people not doing stuff. Russian
I was thinking that this Germany question, which is fine.
Versprochen hat, das nicht stehen geblieben war. Man hat auch nicht gemerkt, dass es nach einer Zeit besser ging. Ja, eben, das habe ich richtig geklappt. Ich frage mich, ob das
Minister.
Deswegen sehe ich nicht an. Nichts möchte ich sagen. Das ist auch nicht richtig verstanden. Das ist doch nicht, was ich machen
We are taking them to get back to the meeting. Good to see you again. How are you? Happy to you acclimatized.
Okay, thank you so much. Hello, thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful to be at this important meeting between the EU and Indo-Pacific. I'm from the Netherlands, and the Netherlands has been supporting of strengthening cooperation with this important region, and we're very pleased to see so many countries turning up here today. It's very impressive. We're very pleased that EU presidency Sweden took the initiative to organize this session. Many shared interests with all the countries here, many serious and important issues on the agenda to discuss. And I very much look forward to being in the roundtable discussions and all the other meetings that we're going to have with all the representatives here today. Thank you so much.
But your minister left also.
Yes, unfortunately he had to leave. He was here and he had some bilaterals as well. He had some urgent obligations, but he's very much in support of this meeting as well, and I have to emphasize on his behalf that the Netherlands very strongly supports this initiative from Sweden. Thank you so much.
With only half of the EU foreign ministers here, does that not send a sign to Indo-Pacific visitors that perhaps this isn't a priority?
I do not think so, because we definitely think it is a priority to all of us, and that is what we have been emphasizing. That is what is also emphasized by all the ministers that are here together, by all the people that are here together. We very much attach importance to this cooperation. And luckily many of us are here as well today, and of course we also have bilateral meetings with many of the ministers from the region, either here in Stockholm or actually in the days to come. Some of them are traveling actually onwards to the Netherlands as well, and of course yesterday there were some bilateral meetings as well. So it's the plenary meetings that are very important, but it's also the bilateral contacts that we have with all the countries present. So thank you so much. Thank you.
She already came in the first ones.
And New Zealand.
No, I'm not the minister.
Ganz korrekt, weil die Packung steht ja eigentlich hier drauf.
Minister.
Sehr viel zur britischen Krone nach wie vor.
Well, we rushing back to all of West England really this year.
Good morning, Minister.
Stand on the grey spot, please.
Of course. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be representing the United Kingdom as Minister of State at the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. First of all, underlining our strong bilateral relationship with Sweden. I rather on a lighter note the Foreign Minister and I had a little moment about the Eurovision Song Contest, wishing each other very much well in this particular process, but in all seriousness, the bilateral relationship is in a very strong place, and we're looking forward to welcoming the Swedish Prime Minister to the United Kingdom. I'm also grateful to High Representative Borrell. The United Kingdom and the EU have a very strong relationship, and being here at a time where we're convening our Indo-Pacific partners, with the Indo-Pacific tilt that the United Kingdom has, with the current challenges we're facing on the global stage, be it climate change or indeed the illegal war of Russia on Ukraine. Again, we've demonstrated that our strong cooperation with the European Union and our Indo-Pacific partners is crucial to ensuring we do achieve that world where security, trade, but also importantly, the stability of nations is assured, and having and working with key democratic partners around the world between these two key regions is essential. Thank you so much.
What's your message to China?
Well, China, you would have seen my dear friend, the Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, also articulated. I'm the United Kingdom's Human Rights Minister. Where we have differences, as we've done so at the Human Rights Council, we have called China out on the situation, for example, ongoing situation with the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. But equally, as the Foreign Secretary said in a recent speech he made at Mansion House, that China is also a country that we recognize has a role to play on the world stage, whether it's on issues within the context of the United Nations, when we look at the issues of climate change, when we look at the issue of global pandemics. China is an important country in this respect, and where those issues are important and there is equities to be held for in benefit of everyone, we should work with China on those particular aspects. But notwithstanding that, we will also call out where we see issues need to be challenged with China quite directly.
Minister, regarding Ukraine, how much of a challenge and how do you tactfully get the Indo-Pacific visitors onto the same page with regard to the Russian invasion of Ukraine?
Well, let's go back in recent history when the invasion happened, and I'm delighted that we have, for example, at that time, the President of the General Assembly of the UN was Abdullah Shahid, the Foreign Minister now of Maldives. We work very closely with our Indo-Pacific partners. I, being here, I'm the Minister for our relationships with South Asia, and what we have to do is make a very robust case. This is about the UN Charter. There has been an illegal invasion by a P5 country on the sovereign integrity of Ukraine. But I'm heartened by the fact that when the invasion happened, 140 nations stood together. Recently, a year on from that conflict, when there was another vote at the General Assembly, again, because of the strength of our combined diplomacy, we saw, again, over 140 nations of the 193 at the UN come together and send a very strong message to Russia that the sovereignty, the integrity of a nation, a founding nation of the UN, is key, and also upholding the real principles of the UN Charter are also key. So we will continue those conversations, and it's important that we have a united front against the aggressor, in this case Russia, and we'll work in a very coordinated fashion with our key partners. And as I alluded earlier, our relationship with the European Union is an important one, as we've demonstrated through the cooperation and collaboration on imposing, for example, sanctions on those key Russian entities and individuals. Thank you so much.
Nice to be back attending EU meetings, Minister.
Well, the thing is, we never left Europe, let's be very clear. But we made a decision, it was a democratic decision of the British people. But what's also important is that all countries recognise, as does the United Kingdom, about the value of key collaborations, partnership and cooperation. And the European Union is one of our key partners when we're talking trade, climate change, or indeed the war on Ukraine. Thank you so much.
Stronger together.
Ja. Die European Union, das ist ja nicht falsch, das kann man immer noch lassen, nicht?
UK was the last one.
Okay.
So you know.
Hey, sorry?
UK was the last one.
Sorry,
India?
India?
No.
No handshake for India. No handshake as well. There was no handshake for India. Oh, they haven't landed yet. Okay.
No, we're just waiting for His Majesty and the Crown Princess now.
Oh, is the King going to speak? Well, it's worth asking.
Can you check?
I can check.
Ich mache Glück über die Pars, dieses Pars, wirklich, das ist doch absurd hier. Es geht Morell vorher, wie wichtig, und jeder in Brüssel erzählt, wie wichtig der Indo-Pazifik ist, die wichtigste strategische Region. Und ich meine, dann machen wir so einen Quatsch, das ist doch echt lächerlich. Also ernsthaft. Ja, genau. Ganz undankbar. Ich bin hier, ja klar, soll ich auch sagen. Also bei uns, kurze Frage noch für den Anbieter. Ganz kurz. Eine Frage abschließen.
Eine kleine Frage.
Sie sind ja immer dann da als Minister, Herr Asselborn, aber 14 von 27 EU-Ministern kommen zu diesem Treffen. Der Rest fehlt. Zeigt das so ein bisschen ein mangelndes Interesse Europas an dieser Region? Also das ist doch jetzt irgendwie nicht diese Botschaft, die man setzen wollte.
Jetzt überraschen Sie mich mit der Zahl. Ich weiß das auch nicht, ich habe nicht gezählt. Ja, es gibt einige Kollegen, die wirklich nicht kommen können. Und ich finde, es ist schon eine wichtige Sitzung. Wir sollen hier sein, wenn es nur geht. Aber wie gesagt, ich weiß das von einigen Kollegen, dass das unmöglich war zu kommen. Wie zum Beispiel der italienische Kollege, wo jetzt hoher Besuch ist in Rom. Und gestern war der auf einer Staatsvisite. Es gibt vielleicht auch andere. Aber gut, ich bin nicht der jetzt Kollegen, sagen wir mal, ankreidet oder sie entschuldigt. Ich weiß das nicht. Sie haben besser gezählt als ich. 14 war das heute Morgen.
14 von 27 heute Morgen, ja genau.
Außenminister, aber die Länder waren alle vertreten.
Na gut, aber das zeigt ja auch die Wichtigkeit. Ob man
es gibt auch
nur einen Staatssekretär.
Ja, aber es gibt auch, nur. Es gibt ja auch, sagen wir mal, nicht Minister, wo die sie vertreten, genauso gut sind wie die Minister.
Oder über Sekundärsanktionen in der EU wird ja gerade diskutiert. Ist das ein Thema, wo vielleicht auch aus den Staaten, aus dem Indo-Pazifik-Raum Leute auf Sie zukommen, wo das diskutiert wird, wo Leute sagen, was machen Sie denn da in der Europäischen Union?
Sie sprechen jetzt von Flüchtlingen.
Ich spreche von den Sekundärsanktionen, also die jetzt gerade in der Europäischen Union diskutiert werden, dass man Länder, die vielleicht bei der Sanktionsumgehung einen Teil spielen könnten, vielleicht listet, das wird Sie wissen das besser, was derzeit diskutiert wird, spielt das hier eine Rolle?
Nein, also was eine Rolle spielt, ist, dass zum Beispiel auch meine Wenigkeit, ich habe klar gesagt, wir müssen aufpassen, es ist kein europäischer Krieg. Es ist ein Krieg, der gegen die UN-Charta geführt wird, gegen internationales Recht. Und das ist nicht der Westen, der sogenannte Westen, der das lösen wird, allein. Was die Sanktionen angeht, man darf nicht jeden Tag hereinfallen in das Märchen von Putin. Es sind nicht die Sanktionen, die, sagen wir mal, die Welt in verschiedenen Regionen vor viele Herausforderungen stellen. Es ist der Krieg. Wenn der Krieg aufhören würde, würde sich vieles in sehr schneller Zeit wieder auf eine normale Schiene befinden. Das, glaube ich, ist eine Botschaft, die wir zu geben haben. Ja. Es ist eine Herausforderung für uns. Ich gebe Ihnen ein Beispiel. Es gibt Länder, auch zum Beispiel in Südamerika, die sehr wohl verstehen, wie die Europäische Union reagiert. Aber die sagen, wir können alles mitmachen, nur nicht die Sanktionen. Weil wir keinen Beschluss haben der UNO, wie wir das zum Beispiel haben beim Iran oder bei Nordkorea. Das ist nicht einfach.
Probieren Sie da irgendwie, spielt das heute auch eine Rolle, alle vielleicht eher auf die Seite der Europäischen Union zu ziehen und da auch zu überzeugen, mitzumachen?
Ich glaube, es geht nicht um die Europäische Union. Es geht ja darum, dass, wenn Russland durchkommt mit diesem Krieg, dass mit Gewalt die Grenzen eines Landes verändert werden und dass das Land sogar riskiert, vernichtet zu werden. Dass das auch, wenn das gelingt, Putin auf einem anderen Kontinent geschehen kann oder andere Länder geschehen kann. Es geht um das Prinzip, was die Sowjetunion damals nach dem Zweiten Weltkrieg mit aufgebaut hat in der Charta der Vereinten Nationen. Da steht drin, dass die Grenzen zu respektieren sind. Das internationales Recht verbietet, dass man die Grenzen überschreitet. Darum geht es. Und es geht nicht jetzt um sekundäre Effekte der Sanktionen. Wir wissen das in verschiedenen Ländern, darum werden wir uns ja auch darum kümmern, wo die Exporte der Europäischen Union dramatisch gestiegen sind. Zum Beispiel in Ländern auch von Zentralasien. Wir müssen mit den Ländern in Kontakt bleiben und das Ziel kann nicht sein, die Exporte schnell in die Höhe, und das wird nur gemacht, um Sanktionen zu umgehen.
Aber deswegen werden ja diese Sekundärsanktionen diskutiert. Kommen da jetzt auch Außenminister auf Sie zu und sprechen Sie da vielleicht darauf an? Spielt das?
Ja, ich hoffe, dass wir da, wir haben ja Herrn Sullivan, der sagen wir mal, in Vertretung der Europäischen Union in all diese Länder auch pilgert, mit ihnen spricht, und man kann das ja nicht dekretieren. Man kann das nur versuchen, dass es falsch ist, wirklich falsch ist gegenüber dem, was Putin macht, dass es Umwege gibt, damit die Sanktionen der Europäischen Union und anderen Ländern der Welt, es sind ja, ich glaube, über 30 Länder, dass die umgangen werden. Okay? Also das andere in Englisch, Sie übersetzen ihm das in Englisch. Ich bin, ja.
Yeah. Why are you still here, and what do you think that so many of your colleagues have left?
No, some of my colleagues, they have an excuse, because for instance, there is an important visit in Rome at this moment. I am not here to defend all my colleagues, but I am here to tell you that the countries are represented, and some foreign ministers are very good. Some others may be less, but the problem is that the diplomats, they are able to represent their country, because I am not a diplomat. I never learned it, but we have people in our ministry who have learned diplomacy and to know what they have to do and what they have to say.
Yeah, but still, sir, you are still here.
Yeah.
So why are you here and no one else?
Because I think that it is important to be here. And there is no reason not to be here, for me. But for others, maybe there is a reason. I think also the Spanish colleague is in a state visit with his prime minister. So I cannot excuse everybody who is not here. But I think that in the European Union, we know that meetings like this, above all also for our friend Dimitrov Kuleba, and also for the countries we see now, is great importance.
What's the point of discussion you're looking forward to the most in this meeting?
Now?
Yes.
This meeting? With whom?
The Indo-Pacific meeting.
I think the most important most important point might be that we really tell these countries what our conception is about the war of Putin in Ukraine, and how can we end this war, and how can we as international community be solidar, to be strong against Putin. It is not the European war, and it will not be the so-called West who will solve the problem. We have to stick together there. So we have to be. The king is coming. So you ask him why he is here.
Den kom ik aan. He was even better than German, but I managed to do it on the high school, and then we did it much better. Half and cheap. The crown prince. Is it the king? The king. And the crown prince is coming. Now the Swedish king and the crown prince. how to address her. One question, please.
India has just arrived in Sweden. They will do no doorstep. They will walk straight into the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please rise for His Majesty the King and Her Royal Highness the Crown Princess.
Majesty, Your Royal Highness, Excellencies and colleagues, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the EU Indo-Pacific Ministerial Forum in Stockholm. I'm honored that so many of you have taken the time in your busy schedules to come. I'm especially thankful for those of you who have traveled very far, Fiji and Vanuatu in the Pacific and Mozambique and the Comoros in the Indian Ocean. I'm also delighted to see our partners for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific, the United States, Canada and the UK here today. Ladies and gentlemen, we meet at an important point in history. The future carries much promise. Connections and ties between our regions have never been greater. Breakthroughs in technology, such as the rise of the artificial intelligence, promise unprecedented prosperity and poverty elimination. But it is also a time of great challenges. The foundation of peaceful relations between states is being shaken. Ukraine is fighting to protect its people, its sovereignty, and its territorial integrity from Russia's aggression. Free trade is under geopolitical pressure, and climate change threatens our very existence. The situation is already acute for those who battle the rising seas. These are common and parallel challenges for Europe and the Indo-Pacific, and we need to take them on jointly. It is my firm belief that together we are strong enough to make a real difference. Dear friends, this year is a jubilee year for Sweden. We mark 500 years since the founding of our modern state. We celebrate His Majesty the King's 50 years as head of state. Over these years, His Majesty has carried out more than 80 state visits. And I want to take inspiration from his strong international commitment as I look to the future. Just as Sweden built much of its wealth through peaceful trading with the Indo-Pacific, our future depends on our partnerships in the region. In 50 years, the world population will be nearing its peak. We will have had to fulfill our obligations under the Paris Agreement. Technology will have taken further and future steps forward. Where do we want the relationship between Europe and the Indo-Pacific to be at that time? Let me outline my vision. Firstly, we will be economic partners and deeply integrated. Raw materials, goods, services, talent and information will flow freely. The benefits are shared and inclusive, and our interdependence are underpinned by strong trust in each other to maintain a level playing field on which fair trade, practice and secure chains of supply are the rule, not the exception. We work together to fend off attempts to put political pressure on each other by economic means. Secondly, we will be a sustainability champions. Combating climate change requires a holistic approach and cooperation on a level never seen before. We need to innovate at scale and transition at speed. But it also includes energy security, climate adaptation and access to critical raw materials. These are the building blocks of the low-carbon economy, and it requires us to work together. Thirdly, we are broad security promoters. We recognize that the breach of the UN Charter undermines the security of every state and is a crime against all of us. And a small country that is fundamental to Sweden and underlying our motivation to support the UN system. I also see that we have established cooperative means to counter threats that know no borders, be it cyber espionage, disinformation, pandemics, natural disasters, or human security. Sovereignty and respect for one another creates equal the conditions for purposeful and long-term cooperation. In an Indo-Pacific century, we need security to ensure collaboration. The key word in all this is together. As we embark on this journey, the world grapples with aggression, economic turbulence, and extreme weather. However, I believe that the European Union and the Indo-Pacific are large enough to promote sustainable and inclusive development, purposeful enough to address global challenges and the climate crisis, and strong enough to promote broad security, including human security. Now is the time to focus our political dialogue on how we can ensure prosperity, sustainability, and security for all. Like the Indo-Pacific itself, these issues are interconnected and require an inclusive approach. We have common interests, global relevance, and a great untapped potential for enhanced cooperation. Colleagues, I am happy to say that the European Union and the Indo-Pacific has not been passive observers to global events, and our discussions will cover what our future holds and the challenges that we face, which we'll meet both together. Now, let me introduce my dear co-host, the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission, His Excellency Josep Borrell Fontelles, who will share our opening and closing sessions today. The podium is yours. Thank you very much.
Your Majesty, Your Royal Highness, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I want to thank the government and the people of Sweden for hosting this second European Union Indo-Pacific Ministerial Forum in Stockholm here today. I also want to stress my appreciation to all our partners from the Indo-Pacific region who are here today with us. Thank you for taking time in your schedule to be with us and to attend this important event. This forum follows the previous one in Paris last year, which was very successful. And together, today, we are turning this forum into a regular event that has to take place every year. It has to take place every year because Europe and Indo-Pacific area have to be more interconnected and more interdependent. We are, like it or not, and we like it, and we want it to be more interconnected and more interdependent. Because in today's world, there is nothing which is too far away. The Indo-Pacific area is our economic neighbor, and interdependency has a clear geopolitical and security dimension, as my colleague, the Swedish minister, has been mentioning. It's clear, but some figures can illustrate this point. Asia and the Pacific, your region, will contribute to the global world growth, to the growth of the world this year by 2/3. 2/3 of the global growth will happen in the Pacific region. Every day, 2,000 ships transport goods between the Indian Ocean, the South China Sea, towards Europe. 2,000 ships a day. Last year, our imports from the Indo-Pacific region accounted for almost 40% of our total extra European Union imports, 37% to be exact. And our exports to the region accounted to 25%. These figures are impressive. It shows that our economic links are every day stronger and deeper. But at the same time, unhappily, the global security environment continues to deteriorate. There is less trust among the main players, and there is a weakening of the respect for international law, for multilateral rules, for multilateral norms that govern our working and living together. And as a result of that, force and coercion are on the rise. It is not the law, it's the force who is increasingly determining the behavior of the world. And many countries feel forced to expand their military investment. Military spending last year grew again, and it is the all-time high, reaching $2.2 trillion US. One may believe that it is for the war in Ukraine, and certainly, the military expenditure in Europe is today 30% higher than in 2013, before the takeover of Crimea by Russia. 30% higher. And across Asia, this trend of increasing military expenditure is even greater. Last year, the military expenditure in Asia and Oceania was 40% higher than in 2013. So in 10 years, we have increased our military expenditure by 30% and you by 45%, which shows that we live every day in a more insecure world. But we have vital interest on stability and prosperity. We have vital and common interests in our prosperity and security. Unhappily, the Russian aggression against Ukraine is taking us very busy, consuming a lot of our energies, but it's not just an European war. The principles which are at stake affects everyone, and it has clearly global consequences in terms of food and energy prices for almost all human beings. So we all have a clear stake in each other's security. And that's why we launched in 2021 our strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. With that, we want to show that we want to contribute to the stability, security, and prosperity of the Indo-Pacific area, because stability, security, and prosperity is also part of ours. Last year, we launched the first ever strategy for the Gulf region, because we want to be more present and more active across the Indo-Pacific and to build strong partnerships. Last year, in our meeting at Paris, we said that our Indo-Pacific strategy was about concrete actions, not just rhetoric. So, 1 year later, what have we done? Allow me to cite some concrete examples of what we have achieved since last year's meeting. In December, we signed a partnership and cooperation agreement with Malaysia and Thailand. We have opened new trade and investment opportunities, including the conclusion of the negotiation for a free trade agreement with New Zealand, the ongoing negotiations with Australia, the resumption of negotiations of a free trade agreement with India, the launching of a Trade and Technology Council that will meet next week for the first time in Brussels, and free trade agreement negotiation that has been relaunched with Thailand, ongoing and intensifying with other Indo-Pacific partners, including Indonesia and Kenya. Last year, we established digital partnerships with Japan, with the Republic of Korea, with Singapore. In October, we signed the EU-ASEAN Comprehensive Air Transport Agreement of extraordinary importance for the connectivity among us. Yes, connectivity. Connectivity is the key word. It's a strategic concept for those days. And that's why we launched our Global Gateway, a plan to boost European Union engagement in the region and to provide a strategic investment in the development of infrastructure. About 20 Global Gateway priority projects has been launched and will be implemented across the Indo-Pacific for hydropower, for solar energy plants, to transport infrastructure. And all that will contribute to increase the regional security on the Indo-Pacific. We have a Navy operation, Atalanta, which is now covering a larger spectrum of tasks in a much larger theater. It was conceived to fight against the piracy in the coast of Somalia. Now is a maritime security provider along the African coast. We have conducted successfully joint naval exercises with the Indo-Pacific partners, with Djibouti, India, Indonesia, with Japan, with the Republic of Korea, with Oman, and more recently with the US. We are developing a coordinated maritime presence in the northwestern Indian Ocean to optimize the use of assets that the member states of the European Union are deploying in the region. These are just examples. Ladies and gentlemen, they show that we have an overriding interest on maintaining peace, stability, and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific. Allow me to cite an old ancient Greek historian that today is very fashionable to cite, Thucydides. Everybody makes reference to Thucydides today, when he argued that convergence of interest is the surest way of keeping good relations between states and individuals. Shared interest, common interest, values, priorities, cooperation. These are the key words of our relationship. That has to be a two-way relationship. It's not about what we, the European Union, can do in the region and for the region. It's about what we can do together, in equal foot, knowing that we live in a complex world, a dangerous world, that requires cooperation among us to achieve common goals. We Europeans, we have much to listen and learn from the Indo-Pacific region, as much as we have to give. And that's why we are meeting here in Stockholm, in a beautiful sunny day, in a beautiful place with Your Majesty. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you to all of us. Thank you to all of you for coming and attending this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Josep. I will now give a word to 6 honourable speakers. And first I welcome His Excellency Deputy Prime Minister of Fiji, Manoa Kamikamika, to the podium. Please, sir, the floor is yours.
Your Majesty, the King, Her Royal Highness, the Crown Princess, Your Excellencies, Mr. Tobias Billström, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Sweden and President of the Council of the European Union, Mr. Joseph Borrell Fontelles, High Representative and Vice President of the European Commission, Honourable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Bula and warm greetings from the vast blue Pacific. It is an honor to address you as we renew and strengthen the partnership between the European Union and the Indo-Pacific countries. I extend sincere gratitude on behalf of my Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs, who regrettably could not be here today, for the invitation to this very important gathering. We value our relationship with the European Union because it is based on mutual respect, shared values, and common interests, and Fiji appreciates EU's increased engagement in the Indo-Pacific region as reflected in its strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific and its Global Gateway initiative. For my part of the world, Pacific leaders made a historic decision last year to adopt a 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent. The strategy reflects the collective vision, values, and aspirations of the Pacific Island countries and outlines the key thematic areas and strategic pathways to achieve them. It is not only a blueprint for the future, but also a call to action for all development partners to align their cooperation with our countries. We therefore anticipate a more coherent engagement as a region with the EU and other partners through the Blue Pacific 2050 strategy. For small island states, part of the challenge of being in the Indo-Pacific space is ensuring that our own geostrategic interests are given priority as much as our larger neighbors, particularly Asia. We trust this is taken into account as the region faces urgent challenges that require collective and decisive action. It is that awareness that compelled the Pacific countries' engagement with our Indo-Pacific ally Japan in deferring the planned discharge of wastewater from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station into the Pacific Ocean. It is also the driving force behind our collective advocacy on the existential threat of climate change. Imagine losing your home, your land, and your culture to the rising sea. This is the nightmare that many island nations face. Pacific countries like Kiribati and Tuvalu, with no escape from the relentless sea level rise. They have to choose between uprooting their people or building artificial islands. Neither option secures their future, as their maritime rights and resources are also in danger. It is the harsh reality that many coastal communities in Fiji are facing climate change that threatens their very existence. We have no choice but to relocate our people from the rising sea. This is a daunting and complex task, one of last resort. It is painful and costly process that needs careful planning, consultation, and coordination. 6 communities in Fiji have already been relocated, and 42 more are in urgent need of moving in the next decade. We cannot afford this on our own. We need financial support from our development partners to face this huge challenge. We need support that honors our sovereignty, our dignity, and our human rights. We need support that acknowledges that relocation is not a solution, but a response to the loss and damage caused by climate change. And we appeal to the EU and other development partners to stand with us and our people who are facing displacement and uncertainty. Fiji welcomes the EU's Indo-Pacific strategy as an opportunity to strengthen our cooperation on critical issues of climate change, security, and sustainable and inclusive prosperity. These are issues that matter greatly to Fiji and the Pacific region. We are committed to promoting security, stability, democracy, and cooperation in our region. We are also keen to explore the possibilities of growing the blue economy, making renewable energy and innovation the drivers of growth. The EU's support for free and green trade, sustainable supply chains, and digitization can also help boost economic growth and reduce poverty in our region. We are confident that the EU's role in our economic policies will be one of partnership in areas such as taxes, investment, and free movement of people, goods, and services. In this regard, we urge the EU to revise its tax blacklisting approach to the smaller countries in our region and to show solidarity and understanding in these challenging times. We also encourage EU to finalize its process of signing the post-Cotonou Agreement, which will shape your partnership for the next 20 years with those of us in the Organization for African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. And finally, of course, we'd like to place our record on the support by the EU and our global efforts to support Ukraine in its current conflict with Russia. The Ukrainian people are suffering, and we, the rest of the world, are feeling its wider impacts. We believe in Ukraine's sovereignty and their right as a people. In closing, we believe that our partnership is on the right track, guided by a long-term perspective. The challenges and opportunities in our region are complex and require engagement over many years. We look forward to working closely with the EU in the years ahead and to building a brighter and more prosperous future for all our peoples. Vinaka and thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Mr. Manoa Kamikamika. I would now like to welcome Her Excellency, the Foreign Minister of Indonesia, Retno Marsudi, to the podium. Please, Madam, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Tobias. Your Majesty, Your Royal Highness, colleagues. Indonesia just finished hosting the 42nd ASEAN Summit in Labuan Bajo on the 11th of May. After all ASEAN leaders left, I flew right away from Labuan Bajo to Jakarta and then transited in Singapore and Copenhagen, and finally this morning I arrived in Stockholm. So in total, more than 18 hours of flight. It is almost impossible for me to attend this forum in time, but I'm very pleased that I'm here now seeing all of you. Colleagues, the collaboration, thank you. The collaboration of in the Indo-Pacific was discussed in the ASEAN Summit. The key is in the word collaboration, and we really mean that. ASEAN is strategically located in the center of the Indo-Pacific region, and this is significant for us. That is why ASEAN doesn't want to see the Indo-Pacific region becomes another theater of rivalries. It is enough to see wars in other regions. Therefore, we must work together to ensure the Indo-Pacific a region of peace and prosperity, including through this forum. ASEAN opens our doors to all countries without exception, but we have our terms and conditions. You should be familiar with this after our discussion in Paris, respect for international law, and the paradigm of collaboration. Those terms are also the most fitting ones in the Indo-Pacific, so we are trying to mainstream them in the region. We expect our partners to subscribe to the same terms in their engagement with the region. First, our engagement must be inclusive. Any cooperation framework must be open to any countries. The Indo-Pacific pie is too big to be enjoyed only by few. We are not interested to be part of another Cold War or to be proxies of great powers. Common peace, stability, and prosperity must be enjoyed by all. Second, our engagement must also be concrete. We cannot make the Indo-Pacific significant only on the paper. Any cooperation framework must benefit our people. So it cannot be confined to political and security dimension or simply norm-setting exercise. The ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific already identified 4 priorities areas of cooperation. But our cooperation must also be forward-looking to address the challenges of tomorrow. We particularly want to learn from Europe on building a greener and more sustainable economy. All in all, inclusive and concrete engagement will reduce tension, solidify trust building, and create greater interdependence between countries in the region. Colleagues, Indonesia will convene an ASEAN Indo-Pacific Infrastructure Forum in Jakarta, back-to-back with the 43rd ASEAN Summit in September. Indonesia invites your participation, including your private sectors, to participate in the forum. It is a platform to capitalize on the maximum potential of the Indo-Pacific. So to conclude, I only have one message today. Let us cooperate and collaborate concretely, inclusively for a peaceful, stable, and prosperous Indo-Pacific. I thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Ms. Retno Massoudi. I would now like to welcome His Excellency Foreign Minister of the Comoros, Dohir Doul Kamal, to the podium. Please, sir, the floor is yours.
Votre Altesse, le roi de Suède, Votre Altesse royale la princesse héritière de Suède, Excellence Monsieur Tobias, ministre des Affaires étrangères de la coopération de Suède, Excellence Monsieur Joseph Borrell, vice-président et haut représentant de l'Union européenne, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres et chefs des délégations, honorable assistance, Mesdames et Messieurs, tout protocole observé. C'est un réel plaisir de prendre part à cette conférence ministérielle de l'Indo-Pacifique en ma qualité de ministre des Affaires étrangères de l'Union des Comores, assurant la présidence en exercice du Conseil exécutif de l'Union africaine. Je voudrais alors saisir cette opportunité pour adresser mes sincères remerciements aux autorités suédoises et pour l'accueil chaleureux et les facilités qui ont été accordées à ma délégation dans cette belle et historique ville de Stockholm et les facilités pour la présidence tournante de l'Union, les féliciter pour la présidence tournante de l'Union européenne. Qu'il me soit également permis de saluer cette initiative de l'Union européenne qui offre au plus haut niveau une plateforme d'échange et de réflexion aux différentes délégations présentes sur une thématique d'une aussi grande importance à plus d'un titre. L'Union des Comores, qui est au centre du canal de Mozambique, pays africain du sud-ouest de l'océan Indien, prend toute la mesure de cet événement qui, en toile de fond, soulève les enjeux économiques et de paix dans le monde. L'Indo-Pacifique, cette région qui couvre l'Afrique, l'Asie, l'Océanie, avec près de 60% du PIB mondial, est devenue aujourd'hui l'épicentre de l'économie et de la démographie mondiale. Elle représente ainsi un espace de destin partagé entre les pays de cette zone et les grandes puissances mondiales. Son poids politique, conjugué à son importance économique et démographique, fait de la région Indo-Pacifique un acteur incontournable pour la préservation d'un ordre international plus juste et équitable qui permet de relever les défis du nouveau monde et qui se profile. Ce constat réel fait de l'Indo-Pacifique un partenaire important des enjeux mondiaux, engendrant dans cette optique une forte concurrence des grandes puissances. C'est vous dire, honorable assistance, que l'Indo-Pacifique est une zone hautement stratégique pour chacun d'entre vous et pour chacun d'entre nous. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, depuis février 2022 et bien avant, l'économie mondiale a été durement secouée depuis l'apparition de la pandémie de la Covid-19. Nos projections de développement ont dû être réactualisées afin de répondre à la conjoncture économique générée par la crise sanitaire et la guerre en Ukraine. Ces deux chocs aux conséquences désastreuses interrogent sur le devenir de la région de l'Indo-Pacifique qui représente à elle seule près de 70% des échanges commerciaux, la deuxième destination des exportations de l'Union européenne. Nous devons, à cet égard, accorder plus d'attention à la préservation de la paix et de la sécurité dans les pays de la zone. Ceci permettra de promouvoir la relance économique pour soutenir le développement et accompagner les efforts des grands ensembles régionaux et ainsi renforcer la croissance économique. L'Afrique, qui qui subit de plein fouet les contre-coups de la guerre en Ukraine, mérite un regard particulier en cette phase d'accélération de la mise en œuvre de la zone de libre-échange continentale, communément appelée ZLECAf. Dans le même élan, la voix des petits États insulaires en développement, avec leur vulnérabilité structurelle, devrait être encore plus écoutée pour mieux prendre en compte leurs spécificités et leurs potentialités. En conséquence, la paix, la sécurité et une approche holistique, mais différente selon les particularités qui nous caractérisent, je m'associe à la vision du président américain Joe Biden qui déclarait en septembre 2021 que, je cite, « L'avenir de chacun de nos nations et forcément du monde dépend d'une Indo-Pacifique libre et ouverte qui perdure et qui s'épanouit dans les décennies à venir. » C'est tout l'intérêt des programmes portés par l'Union européenne dans la région, notamment le programme Crimario et le programme MAS, dont l'Union des Comores est partie prenante. En revanche, les attentes de la région Indo-Pacifique vont bien au-delà des résultats de ces programmes. La stratégie européenne de l'Indo-Pacifique doit pouvoir répondre aux défis et aux besoins actuels de nos pays, chacun dans sa diversité, à travers des actions de coopération ciblées. La démarche de l'Union européenne dans l'Indo-Pacifique, axée sur la coopération, non sur la confrontation, nous semble en ce sens mieux adaptée à nos politiques de développement et aux partenariats souhaités pour assurer l'essor économique de nos pays. Qu'il s'agisse de la prospérité durable et inclusive, de la transition écologique et de la gouvernance des océans, des partenariats numériques, de la connectivité, de la sécurité et défense ou de la sécurité humaine. Ces axes de coopération permettront d'élargir l'assiette de notre coopération dans la lutte contre les inégalités, la transition raisonnée vers les énergies renouvelables et des infrastructures moins polluantes, la promotion de l'économie bleue et verte dans le respect des engagements internationaux, le partage des bonnes pratiques et des connaissances en matière de nouvelles technologies, la facilitation de la circulation des personnes et l'amélioration de la desserte aérienne et maritime et la sécurité des personnes et de leurs biens. Pour clore mon propos, je voudrais réitérer mes remerciements aux autorités suédoises et à l'Union européenne pour l'organisation de ce forum. Je voudrais vous rassurer que le gouvernement comorien, qui entretient de très bonnes relations avec l'Union européenne, reste à votre écoute pour porter ce partenariat à un nouveau palier tant à l'échelle nationale qu'à l'échelle régionale et continentale. Et je vous remercie.
Thank you, dear Mr. Dohir Dul Kamal. Now I'm pleased to welcome His Excellency the Foreign Minister of Japan, Yoshimasa Hayashi. Please, sir, you have the floor.
Your Majesty the King, Your Royal Highness Crown Princess, Minister Billstrom, High Representative Borrell, Ministers, distinguished representatives, I am really honored to attend this forum today and to deliver a keynote speech. And I don't want to compete with the Minister Rutono how many hours I took here because I was only 12 hours flight to come here. So today I would like to highlight 3 points. Firstly, it is more important than ever to uphold the free and open international order based on the rule of law. Secondly, as the embodiment of this order in the Indo-Pacific region, we are aiming to realize a free and open Indo-Pacific. Thirdly, it is essential for Japan and European partners to deepen cooperation to this end. The international community is now at an historic turning point. Russia's aggression against Ukraine has shaken the very foundation of the international order. Any unilateral attempts to change the status quo by force cannot be tolerated anywhere in the world. This challenge to the free and open international order based on the rule of law is not just a regional issue. It is also a common challenge that the international community must address together in unity. Otherwise, similar challenges will arise in other regions, and the existing order which has underpinned our peace and prosperity could be fundamentally overturned. In this sense, the security of Europe and that of Indo-Pacific can no longer be discussed separately. Against this backdrop, it is extremely important and timely that ministers from both Europe and the Indo-Pacific gather here in Stockholm today to discuss the importance of the free and open international order based on the rule of law, and the need for this order to be upheld in the Indo-Pacific as well. I would like to express my respect and gratitude to Minister Billström and High Representative Borrell for once again hosting this forum. Last month, I hosted the G7 Foreign Ministers meeting where we robustly demonstrated the G7's strong will to defend the free and open international order based on the rule of law. This vision underscores the necessity for the rule of law, especially for vulnerable states, in order to enjoy freedom. It also highlights the necessity for diversity, inclusiveness, and openness in the international community, and the importance of not imposing values on others. This is a vision that many countries can share and provides the basis for ensuring the unity of the international community. At the G7 Hiroshima Summit, to be held next week, we will again demonstrate to the world a strong determination to uphold the free and open international order based on the rule of law. The free and open Indo-Pacific, or FOIP, is the embodiment of this order in Asia. However, in the Indo-Pacific region, China is continuing and intensifying its unilateral attempts to change the status quo by force in the East and South China Seas. China is also increasing its military activities around Taiwan. In addition, China and Russia are strengthening their military collaboration, including joint fights of their bombers and joint naval exercises in the vicinity of Japan. During my visit to China in April the 1st, I directly delivered to my Chinese counterparts our serious concerns about these points. In addition, North Korea is escalating its provocations by repeatedly launching ballistic missiles with a frequency and in a manner that are unprecedented, including ICBM-class ballistic missiles, one of which fell within Japan's EEZ. In the face of this challenging security environment in the Indo-Pacific, it is vital to work not only with countries in that region, but also with like-minded countries in Europe in order to uphold the free and open international order based on the rule of law. Japan welcomes the increasing engagement of European partners in the Indo-Pacific region. Japan is committed to unwavering support for ASEAN centrality and unity and to promoting cooperation in line with the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific. We also firmly support the realization of the 2 of 50 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent, and we will promote our partnership with Pacific Island countries. In March this year, Prime Minister Kishida announced a new plan for FOIP. Based on this new plan, Japan will expand cooperation with other countries for the realization of the FOIP in order to lead the international community away from division and confrontation towards unity, and cooperation. One of the key pillars of the FOIP plan is strengthening connectivity. In the new FOIP plan, Japan announced that by 2030, we will mobilize a total of more than $75 billion in public and private funds for the Indo-Pacific region through private investment and ODA loans, so that we can grow together with these countries. These efforts are in line with the cooperation proposed in the EU's Global Gateway strategy. Japan will enhance cooperation with the EU on sustainable connectivity and quality infrastructure based on the Japan-EU Connectivity Partnership, which was launched in 2019. In addition to this connectivity and quality infrastructure cooperation, the EU is an important partner for Japan in the Indo-Pacific. I am encouraged by the EU's increasing engagement in the Indo-Pacific in recent years, including the expansion of its coordinated maritime presences to the Indian Ocean. On the occasion of the next Japan-EU summit, Japan would like to set out new directions for security and defense cooperation in order to promote our alliance in this area. Furthermore, it is essential to enhance cooperation with the EU in the area of economic security. New challenges have been emerging, such as the vulnerability of global supply chains, theft on critical technologies, forced transfer of intellectual property rights, and the pursuit of national interest through coercive means backed by economic power. It is important for Japan and the EU to work together with like-minded partners, including those from emerging and developing economies, to reinforce our deterrence and our capabilities to address these challenges. Allow me to conclude my remarks today by saying that Japan will lead efforts by the international community in partnership with like-minded countries, both in Europe and in the Pacific, to uphold the free and open international order based on the rule of law. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, dear Mr. Yoshimasa Hayashi. Now I welcome Her Excellency Minister of Foreign Affairs of France, Catherine Condola. Please, the floor is yours.
Votre Majesté, Votre Altesse royale, Monsieur le représentant, cher Joseph, Monsieur le ministre, cher Tobias, chers collègues, je suis honoré de participer à cette seconde édition du Forum ministériel Union européenne Indo-Pacifique, lancé sous présidence française à Paris l'an dernier. Je me félicite que la présidence suédoise ait repris le flambeau de cette enceinte de dialogue qui nous permet d'incarner le partenariat entre l'Union européenne et les pays de l'Indo-Pacifique. Le Forum de Paris s'était tenu le 22 février 2022, 2 jours avant l'invasion de l'Ukraine par la Russie. Cette guerre illégale et injustifiable se poursuit. Nous en ressentons tous les effets et elle nous concerne tous. Car il en va du respect de la Charte des Nations Unies. Car s'il n'est pas répondu à cette agression aujourd'hui, d'autres États se sentiront libres de faire la même chose, demain, ailleurs. La réponse à cette agression nous mobilise plus que jamais, nous, Européens, unis, déterminés, mais aussi nombre de nos partenaires de l'Indo-Pacifique représentés ici, chacun à notre manière. Et nous respectons nos différences. Dès lors que tous, nous nous retrouvons sur l'essentiel, qui est la défense du droit international, qui commence par le respect de la souveraineté et de l'intégrité territoriale des États, ces principes cardinaux que la Russie a foulés aux pieds. Cette guerre n'enlève rien à notre ambition dans l'Indo-Pacifique. Nous sommes convaincus que la sécurité des deux extrémités du continent euro-asiatique est profondément liée, comme le sont nos économies. Notre ambition est d'œuvrer à la préservation d'un espace Indo-Pacifique à la fois libre, ouvert, prospère et inclusif, en nouant des partenariats entre égaux avec les pays et les organisations de la région. Il s'agit de faire en sorte que chaque pays ait la liberté de sa souveraineté, pour reprendre la formule du président Macron. Ils doivent pouvoir disposer, à cet effet, de plusieurs options souveraines pour faire leur propre choix. Et là, je cite ce qu'avait dit de façon très juste le docteur Jaishankar à Paris il y a un an. L'Europe porte une approche singulière à cet égard, une approche européenne. Cette approche refuse d'entrer dans une logique des blocs qui voudrait ou